A warm welcome to our autumn Totum talks. I'm very pleased today to be joined by Stephen Allen of DLA Piper and Mark Smith of LexisNexis. They've both come along today to share some of their views on what is going on in a very changing and rapidly developing legal sector.
My name is Stephen Allen. I'm the Head of Market Strategies at DLA Piper. My role is international, which means I work with DLA globally, save for the Americas. My role is three-pronged. One is looking at how we position ourselves and how we price our work in the market. There's a lot of work around fixed pricing, right pricing, that sort of thing. The second part of my role is around making the firm more efficient, so process re-engineering the work we do today for clients so we can do that more effectively. And then the third part of the role is more long-term, which is what's our delivery model need to look like in 3 to 5 years' time.
So I'm Mark Smith from LexisNexis, and I'm the Market Development Director for large law firms, which means I am effectively the voice of the market, the voice of the customer within our business, and it's my job to really understand the market and know what's going on, know what our customers need. After I qualified, I practiced as a lawyer for 10 years. I worked in national and city firms and then moved in-house to an American outsourcing company where I looked after their international team. And after that, I did an MBA and moved into the business and then spent some time consulting with law firms and working for a legal process outsourcer before I joined LexisNexis.
Okay, I mean, Stephen, you've had the benefit of working in traditional law firms. You also had a stint in the Big Four. What's your sense on what part the Big Four have to play in the future of legal services?
So I think it's quite interesting that this is still heralded as a huge challenge to the legal services market. I think that the Big Four have an opportunity with the ABS changes and are doing it actually where there's different regulation anyway, to do work which is ancillary or annexes on to an overall transaction. So PwC have actually had a law firm for 15, 20 years. That firm primarily does tax restructuring work as part of an overall tax transaction. And it makes sense to a client that you use the same organisation to do the tax planning and the tax implementation. I think where the challenge will come for the Big Four is where they then try and compete like for like with law firms in areas where they haven't had an input or a referral from the main firm. And I think that will happen for a number of reasons. One, general counsel will still be brand-wise more comfortable with law firms for a period of time at least than they will with the Big Four. And I think the fact that PwC have had a law firm for 15, 20 years and it's still the size it is kind of testament to that.
You got any comments on that, Mark?
Yeah, so I would agree with the overall sentiment. I think my analysis is to get there slightly differently. So I kind of think about this as saying, if I were them, the way I would enter the market would not be set up a massive law firm, hire a bunch of partners and pay them top dollar, which of course they've got the resources to do, and it would be a drop in the ocean. But I think a lot of the commentary and thought around them is suddenly that's what's going to happen, and there will be Ernst & Young law firm and it will be huge, and I don't think that's the way that I would think about doing it. I would, as Stephen said, look for adjacent work, but I would typically focus on something very niche that plays to my core competence as a big technology-rich firm. So it might be, for example, going from immigration or moving from forensic accounting. And I think the real opportunity for them that they will do better than the law firms will be where there's a big technology component. And so I look at some of the technology that I think will massively shape the legal profession in the future. And I'm thinking around working with big data sets. The buyer might actually be, for example, the procurement function or the finance function or the HR function, and a very focused market offering there, but perhaps on a global scale.
Now, every day we read about another merger and the market continues to consolidate. I mean, where does it all kind of end?
So my view on that is, again, it will be driven by the clients, and ultimately I think that the big clients are driving for more and more international and true global service, and there are certainly law firms that are better at providing global service than others, but certainly when I was in-house there were law firms that weren't a seamless international service. And what I think is a lot of the domestic consolidation we're seeing is the first stage in bigger international consolidation. So I really see, certainly the next 3 years, a lot more domestic consolidation in the mid-market and some larger firms as well. But often that forming the platform for then critical mass to make more significant international mergers.
Can you see a mega merger happening with one of the US heavyweights with a Magic Circle firm?
Personally, not in the next 5 years. I think the cultural and remuneration issues will probably make that difficult. The tier below that, I think quite possibly, but Magic Circle and Wall Street.
Which tier are you talking about?
I'm not sure. Certainly in the UK, kind of 10 to 20.
Yeah.
I could see them playing, a big international merge. We've already seen some pretty big ones in that kind of size firm, but probably not Magic Circle and a Wall Street firm.
I think you're right. There's the remuneration point and the US business model. And I say this from a firm that was the biggest transatlantic merger 10 years ago and still going and growing. But the US model is so entirely different to the rest of the world, and its drivers and value decisions. And the reason by the clients for buying law is so entirely different to the rest of the world that actually there is a huge cultural hump to jump over. I think in terms of mergers generally, I think mergers happen for a number of reasons. So I think we're seeing a spate of mergers now because people want geographic coverage, because clients do want one of the things, coming back to the point about they want you to be able to aggregate on a linear basis, they also want you to be able to aggregate geographically. So that's clearly something that clients want. They want fewer people on their panel. They're happy to have the odd specialist, but they want a number of full service firms who can support them. So some firms are merging for that reason. Some firms are merging because they have been too niche, I think, and therefore need other practices alongside them to feed them. So increasingly you're seeing big commercial outsourcing contracts worked jointly by commercial lawyers and M&A lawyers because the very nature of acquiring these big multi-million, multi-billion pounds contracts. And therefore, if you were traditionally a specialist IP outsourcing practice and you don't have an M&A practice, you will be found wanting in the current market. There's some of that. And then sadly, there are still just basket case firms merging with basket case firms, hoping to God that the firm they're merging with is going to be less of a basket case than they are. Yeah. And I think we'll see that, and we'll see that happen and fail. And we all know of firms out there that are a collection of broken business models, and there's no plan, and getting big seems to be their only plan rather than actually what's the strategic sense of this.
Stephen, Mark, thank you very much.